With over 64,000 real estate agents in Australia, it's pretty hard to find out which is the best one. So today we're going to go through with Adam, our special guest, on questions to ask your real estate agent when you're selling a house. Cool, mate. So let's go through question number one. How long have you been in the business? Why is that a relevant question to ask a real estate agent when you're selling a place?
Good question, Jane. You don't want an agent that's just started in the business. Look, they haven't had the time, the experience to know how to answer questions from buyers and how to negotiate an outcome for you properly.
And also, I guess they don't have that local area knowledge. But why would that be important to actually know what's around the suburb and where the place is?
It's really important to know what are the good streets, what are the bad streets. From one area to another, you could have an extra 10 meters at elevation, you could have city views, and that can be a big difference in determining price. So if you don't know where the schools are, what the bus routes are, as an agent, how are you going to be able to negotiate for your owner to get them the best outcome?
All right, so number two, another good question to ask is how many clients I have. But why does that matter for me if I'm selling a house?
Look, client databases are very important. One, as an agent, if I can, I'll try and sell a property off market before it even gets there. You might get a couple offers beforehand, and it can save you time, it can save you money in advertising. Number two, you want the agent to have been around for a while and built up that database and know their buyers. If they know their buyers, they can match a buyer more quickly, saving you time and effort.
So the third question to ask might be, will I be working with you as the agent or your team? So why is that important?
Look, there's pros and cons for both. When you're working with an agent by themselves, you are pretty much guaranteed that one-on-one contact that they'll be looking after the sale. But on the other hand, when you have a team, when you have a couple PAs or a sales admin, they can focus on looking after those administration, contacting the buyers. Whereas as the agent, you can focus on negotiating and selling the home. And that's what we're here to do.
Yeah, because I kind of think of $1 million listing where you get like Ryan Stonehead there and you hope you're going to get that guy, but you might get the team. So I guess you got to look at the pros and the cons. You got someone with a bigger database and that's obviously important like we covered earlier, but you might not get the same service.
No.
So question number four, what area do you work in primarily? So there are agents that will do across the whole city, that will do from one side to the other. Why is that a bad thing?
Look, if you can focus down into your core area and really know your product and know what you're selling, you're going to get a better result. It's just hands down. You can snap answers, you're going to be able to deal with buyers. Whereas if you're spreading yourself thin, you're going into an area on the other side of town, let's be honest, you don't know everything. You might have a fantastic process, but you're not going to have the same knowledge as a local agent.
And I think like your point from earlier, different suburbs have different pockets within that suburb. So if you don't intricately sort of know that area, if the agent doesn't know that, then you might not get as much money for your property. And the same is on the buy side. If you've got an agent that's a bit of a generalist, you might be able to get a bargain because they might not know the gold mine that they're sitting on. So number five, another good question to ask is what sets you apart from other agents? So break that down for us.
Well, you want to find out, obviously, if the agent's actually had a really good track record and how that record's worked for them. So a great tool to jump onto is ratemyagent.com.au. Get on there, have a look and see if they've actually got any recommendations.
I think another good thing, and it's like with all industries, use independent review sites like Google, and those places where you can find out and you actually see the types of people that have been reviewing that agent. Because if you've got an agent that's got a lot of reviews from older people, they might be more specialized in that space compared to investors or different things. So that can actually then help you get a better price to your place. All right, so number six is find out what fees the agent's going to charge. Now, these are pretty standard, right? It's just a flat fee? No?
You would think so. You have agencies nowadays that charge a range of fees, anywhere from 1.8 to even over 3%. So one, you want to find out what you're actually getting for your money from the agent, because sometimes they do have a bit of a limited service.
And then, so what are the fees like marketing? Is that all? How do you find out what they spend on that?
Well, look, when you talk to your agent, hopefully they'll actually put an independent strategy in place to work out what's best for your property. So they'll come to you with a set of advertising costs and explain each one, and hopefully there's a reason behind it, not just this is what we do, this is what you pay.
But so there are agents out there's like Pebble Bricks and Sell My House, the ones where you can kind of do it on the cheap. So is that good? Like saving money? And
look, I understand there will always be people out there that want to save money. And if you want to go that way, I kind of understand, but at the same time, you got to think about grand price. You might save $5,000 in fees, but if you end up negotiating a price that's $10,000, $20,000 less, you've just lost 15 grand. I'd rather go with an experienced agent that knows the area than risk someone that's not quite a specialist.
Well, I reckon a lot of it's in the negotiation ability too. And if you're selling your own house, it's something that you're really just emotionally involved in. And it might be harder to get as good a price as if you've got someone that's independent and separate that'll actually get you that extra money, and you might pay a bit extra in fees, but you'll end up with 50 extra grand in your pocket. All right, so the next question is, how we communicate. So this is something I actually didn't even think of until you prompted me to it, but it's important now that I think about it. Why?
Yeah, you've got a number of agents that, if you have an open house on a Saturday, you're probably sitting there after the open, the agent's left, they've gone to do the rest of the Saturday. If they don't call you, you don't know what's going on.
Yeah, and you're just sitting there thinking about it. I know when I've sold places I have, and it's not really comfortable.
Yeah, so when you're talking to your agent initially, set what will be the standard, or ask him what their standard for communication is. It's a really good way to find out how they're actually going to deal with you and how hard they're going to work. If they're going to call you after the open, or at least on the Saturday afternoon, you know that they're following up buyers, and you know that you're not going to be sitting there until Monday morning, Tuesday, waiting for them to give you a call.
Well, I think it also shows an agent that's got a bit of experience and kind of gets the process. If you've got someone that's new and they might say, oh, we might call you afterwards, or they don't have really a set system in there, probably would ring a couple of alarm bells for me. But if they know, and like Adam said, if they're going to call you after you open home, I'm calling on Monday morning after the follow the buyers, you know they've got a system, a bit of a process, and you can have a bit more confidence that they're going to sell your place for the right price. And lastly, I guess you got to ask the agent, what questions have you got for me? Why is that important?
Look, that's really important because the agent needs to know your situation. At the end of the day, if they're like a doctor, they need to prescribe a set outcome to actually get you what you want, to make you better. So if they don't know that you need to move in 4 weeks' time, and they haven't asked that question, they're not trying to actually do the best thing for you. You might need to get a certain price to move into a retirement home, or you need to upgrade, but if they don't know the finer intricacies, then how can they actually get you the result that you need?
So yeah, I guess that's a matter of them really understanding your situation, because like you said, potentially you might have bought another place, you might need to sell quickly,
yeah.
Or you might have a loan and you need a certain amount to be able to pay that out. If it's not enough, you can't sell and there's no point selling the place. So it's really about that agent really well communicating with you and making everything clear. But that's it for today, guys. If you've got any comments, let us know. If you want to get in touch with Adam, how do we find you?
Look, you can give me a call or send me an email. Details are down the bottom. Hope to hear from you. Any questions, feel free to ask the guys and they'll pass them on.
All right. Thanks, guys. Catch you.